This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a look from above North Point Douglas. Our CBC drone team getting these images of the scene of a massive fire that ripped through an industrial complex spanning one city block. That fire led to power outages and the evacuation of nearby homes due to concerns about air quality and the fire spreading. Crews have been working throughout the day to put out this fire, but it's been burning since early this morning. CBC's Josh Crabb joins us now live from the scene of that fire. Josh, what's happening at the scene there now?
Firefighters are still working on hosing down the complex more than 12 hours after crews first arrived on Sutherland Avenue between Argyle Street North and Maple Street North, where we are tonight. Now, the structure is described as a multi-use industrial building, and it's located near a number of homes. You can see fire trucks still stationed outside the building. There's an excavator on site tonight. Several people are still watching this firefight, and a number of roads remain closed. The worst of the smoke is over, but the effects of this fire are still being felt in the neighborhood. Clouds of thick, dark smoke shot into the air from this large North Point Douglas industrial complex. The Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service was called just after 5 Tuesday morning. They used an aerial drone to see how the fire was moving and how much they had left to extinguish. Neighbor Sherry Purdy heard signs as she was getting ready for work before police told her to leave her home.
They got us out of there as fast as they could get us out of there. They hosed down our houses to try, because at that point you could feel the flames right from the front stoop of the house.
Purdy's place is one of several homes evacuated within a 3-block radius. More than 60 firefighters with 3 aerial ladders and at least 15 fire vehicles responded. District Chief Rob Labossiere says the fire covered an area the size of a city block. He says parts of the building were vacant, but some businesses were operating out of the complex, which contained tires, vehicles, and propane canisters, prompting air quality concerns.
All fires are toxic and all carry different contaminants in them. Our concern is to make sure to minimize that exposure.
People in other homes that weren't evacuated were told they may have to leave and to keep their windows and doors closed. The province's emergency environmental response team was on scene to take air quality samples for testing. David Gebhardt got caught in some of the worst of the smoke.
It was so thick I couldn't breathe. I literally stopped, turned right around and came back into the area over here.
540 customers lost power because of the fire, according to Manitoba Hydro. Jonathan Sheard and his family had to leave their home later in the morning due to concerns the wind could shift.
Just to be safe, because especially with the hydro being out and that, we don't know how long that's going to be.
Purdy says her place is safe, but firefighters had to extinguish a small fire in her backyard, sparked by embers from the industrial complex.
With everything that's going on, my house is still standing.
There have been no reports of any injuries. The Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service says investigators have been on scene to try and determine what started the fire. Riley.
Thank you, Josh. Our Josh Crabb reporting from North Point Douglas tonight. We're learning more about a woman who was found dead inside of a downtown Winnipeg shelter. She was fighting to make the area safer, and it even called for more shelter space for women. CBC's Stephanie Cram has more.
A Winnipeg man is fondly remembering his girlfriend. It was a new relationship, but he says she was a bright light in Winnipeg's homeless community.
Our biggest memory of her is how she was so nice to people, so bubbly, so smart, and all she wanted was a change.
On the morning of June 26, police responded to a call at the Salvation Army's Center of Hope. Staff say Fallon Johnston was attacked outside the shelter and later died inside the building where she was a resident.
I was just told that she was assaulted 3 times, 3 separate occasions. The last time was the finishing blow, where I was told that she was punched right in the head, and she fell backwards, hit her head.
Johnston previously spoke to CBC about the need for more shelter rooms for women. Bear says Johnston spoke often about the lack of safety in the area.
There's definitely some form of security or something that needs to be out here, because there's non-stop gang members, drugs, violence. Things are always happening out here every day on a daily basis.
Where the Salvation Army has a lot of foot traffic with many shelters nearby. The Downtown Community Safety Partnership says the need for patrol groups in the area is on the rise.
But our teams are here constantly, so we know a lot of the community members in this area. We operate 24/7, so we're here a lot.
Hall Chucker says that Johnston was known to the patrol group.
It's always heartbreaking hearing about a community member passing, especially in that fashion. Our team members were familiar with her, and we have had really positive encounters with her in the past.
Police are looking for 40-year-old Rebecca Marina Flett in connection to Johnston's death. Witnesses or anyone with information about Flett's whereabouts are asked to call police or Crime Stoppers. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We have an update to a story that we brought you here on CBC Winnipeg News last night. The province says conservation officers have found and killed a coyote in the North Kildonan area. Conservation officers have been searching for a coyote that attacked and injured 2 young children in the area. The latest of those attacks happening this past weekend. Both kids are now recovering at home from their injuries. The province says the adult coyote was humanely euthanized. Conservation officers are still in the area, though, looking for any other aggressive animals. People who were forced to leave Leaf Rapids due to a wildfire can now start returning home. Nearly 400 residents of Leaf Rapids have been staying in Thompson since last week. CBC's Brittany Greenslade joins us now from Thompson with the latest. Brittany, how are people feeling now that they're able to start heading home?
Yeah, Riley, there's a sigh of relief. People have been itching to go home, not knowing when that was going to be possible, and they finally got that news this afternoon. Now, despite the fact that the province actually says the wildfire there has grown in size, they say it's moving away from the community, which is why that evacuation order was able to be lifted around noon today. So those who were able to drive to Thompson when they had to flee Leaf Rapids will be given gas vouchers. They can start to return home as of right now. Those who needed to be buses will be coming into Thompson for 11 a.m. tomorrow and sending them back home. Now, a lot of people still waiting to see what they're actually going to be going home to. We know that they lost power for a bit of time, so the province says they'll be giving information as to what people will need to know when it comes to spoiled food. They're also doing another round of checks for people so that they have food and supplies until they get settled on their feet once they get back home. But for many people right now, they've just been waiting for this day. A lot of people happy to say that they can finally go back home.
Now, you've also been told that Manitoba is getting some international help now.
Yeah, the Department of Natural Resources tells us that a 17-member crew was sent up from Minnesota. They arrived in Winnipeg last night. Now, this is part of a mutual aid agreement, the Great Lakes Forest Fire Compact that Manitoba is a part of. It involves Manitoba, Ontario, and 3 states, and they can call on each other when they need help. So Manitoba, we're told, put in that call last Friday, and that's when this group started mobilizing a team. They were expected to be going to Leaf Rapids, but we're told that change of plans happened this morning, and they are now heading north of Grand Rapids, where there's a priority fire there that they're going to be taking care of. Now, some of the members here on this team have special training and qualifications to allow them to use specialized equipment. They'll be bringing that equipment with them. We spoke with somebody from the Department of Natural Resources earlier this morning.
So they will bring that equipment up with them, along with engines, and then just the necessary tools to be able to work to establish fire control lines. And by that means clearing out any vegetation that can be flammable down to the bare soil.
Now, while it's unclear exactly how long they'll be in the province for, we're told that team is used to a 14-day deployment, which doesn't include travel time. So it could be anywhere between 18 and 20 days. But we're hoping that Mother Nature plays a bit of a role in that and that they can get out of here sooner than expected. Riley?
All right, thank you, Brittany. CBC's Brittany Greenslade in Thompson tonight. RCMP are investigating the death of a 60-year-old Winnipeg man after they say a tree fell on his tent at the Manigataugan campground. Police were called to the park just after midnight on Sunday. They say there were strong winds during a thunderstorm and the tree fell on a tent that the man and a woman were sleeping in. Police say nearby campers heard the woman calling for help. She wasn't physically hurt, but the tree had to be cut in order to get the pair out of the tent. A plan to mine sand in southeastern Manitoba is once again back before council in the arm of Springfield. Mining company CO Silica wants to drill thousands of wells over the next few decades. In June, Manitoba's Clean Environment Commission put the brakes on the mining proposal. It said more work has to be done to understand the risks of moving sand from below the surface. Also in June, Springfield Council denied a plan to allow CO Silica to build a sand processing plant east of Enola. Tonight, Council is slated to vote on whether to hold a referendum over that plant or seek public opinion about it. Well, it's now been confirmed that another 3 tornadoes touched down in Manitoba this week. That means we have seen 6 tornado touchdowns so far this summer. We showed you this video last week. The Northern Tornadoes Project says this tornado in the Gilbert Plains area was one of 3 to touch down last Wednesday. A second touchdown in the same afternoon in the Keys area east of Neepawa, and a third in the Brookdale area northeast of Brandon. All of those tornadoes have been classified as EF0 with no major damage reported. Well, meteorologist John Sauter is away hosting a special event outside of the building, so I'm taking a look at your forecast today. And you know, it really did cool down in the last few hours here in southern Manitoba. Parts of the north even at the single digits this hour. Looking at your current conditions, 10 degrees in Thompson. You saw Brittany a little earlier wearing a jacket there. To really cooled down once we saw some of that rain move through the afternoon today. We are on the cusp of some showers in the south as well. 14 in Brandon and Swan River, 18 in Winnipeg, a pair of 20s in northwestern Ontario. Looking at the satellite and radar, you can see that we do have a little bit of shower activity as expected starting to build into the Red River Valley. We will likely see some sprinkles here in the city of Winnipeg in the next little bit. We did see some clouds building in, and you can see that we do have some cloud cover in the north as well. This is a low pressure system that is ushering in that cold northwesterly flow into southern Manitoba, which is why we have seen our temperatures really drop over the course of the afternoon here. And you can see, we see that cloud cover moving out as we get into the overnight period tonight. Still a chance of some sprinkles this evening in the south. Starting tomorrow morning under a mix of sun and clouds, a chance we could see some instability along the lakes, so don't be surprised if we do see some showers early in the morning in the Interlake and parts of eastern Manitoba. More showers moving through northern Manitoba as well, some much needed relief for crews that are battling those wildfires in the north as we head into Thursday. This is when we could see some instability in the south as well. Risk of thunderstorms through the late afternoon Thursday into the evening Thursday into Friday, which starts with mainly clear skies. Looking at rainfall into the night tonight over the next 48 hours, it's looking like generally up to 5 millimeters or so in parts of northern Manitoba. Could see some pockets of heavier precipitation in some of these showers that intensify in parts of the north. Down to 9 degrees in Winnipeg tonight, cloudy with clear breaks or winds lightening up tonight. 12 in the morning and in the afternoon tomorrow, mainly sunny and 18 degrees. Our winds remaining light tomorrow as well. Still some showers to move through parts of northern Manitoba, 22 in Thompson and Norway House, 23s in Flin Flon and the Pas. Into southwestern Manitoba, low 20s tomorrow. Otherwise, a mainly sunny sky, not much wind to speak of either tomorrow. And in the southeast, it's much the same as well. 21 in Winnipeg, Emerson, Steinbach. Could see some more cloud cover as we get into the eastern part of Manitoba, into northwestern Ontario. We'll see a little bit more cloud than sun. 18s for Red Lake, Kenora, and Fort Francis. 17 degrees in Dryden. I will have your full 7-day forecast coming up at the end of the show. Well, as I mentioned, John is away today. He's helping out at a charity golf tournament for Stars Air Ambulance. He caught up with one of the organizers earlier to hear more about the role that fundraising plays for the life-saving service.
I'm here at Glendale Golf and Country Club this morning for the annual Stars Golf Classic. It's a fundraising event to support the Stars program. And with me is Colleen Mayer. Colleen, welcome today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let's talk about why these kinds of events are so important to supporting STARS, and the money raised today, how does that support the program?
You know, events like this help support our operations. So they help keep that helicopter fueled in the sky. They help make sure our crews are trained. All the equipment that you find on what we call that flying ICU, that helicopter, every piece of equipment, every piece of training to provide critical care anywhere across this province.
Now, it's not fully funded by events like this, though, right? There's other funding and from the private sector?
Yeah, we have quite a, what I say is a blend. We have some government funding, of course, but it's corporate, individual donors who come on board. It's service clubs, it's you name it. We've even had lemonade stands, we've had steer auctions, you name it. Whatever anyone can do to raise funds, they all contribute to us.
I want to ask you briefly about the recent events on Highway number 1 near Carberry. Can you talk a little bit about the response on that particular day?
Yeah, so I mean, our crews are highly trained to handle incidents like that. Basically, for them, they were ready. They, like I said, they're highly trained, and they responded accordingly, along with all the other first responders on site. They went out. We had 2 helicopters, of course, our own Star 7 crew, but also a helicopter came in from Regina. We had our staff, our crew on 2 fixed-wing helicopters, and so we helped out with the hospital in Brandon. We were at the airport, and of course we were on site.
Let's talk about the numbers. How many missions does STARS fly in an average year?
We average about 2 to 3 missions a day. Some days, of course, more, some less. Our last, how we monitor them by missions was just under 700 last year. The year before was 773, but that, of course, was COVID, kind of heightened that as well. But we respond to several interfacility transfers, so from those regional hospitals coming into Winnipeg, but also scene calls.
I thought the number would be more like 100. That's shocking.
Yeah.
So this is really important. And I wanted to talk about the staff a little bit. What kind of staff complement do you have? And you have to be ready 24/7, right?
We have an amazing crew. It's a mix of transport physicians. We've got flight paramedics. We have flight nurses. Of course, our pilots who are highly trained to land in any situation. And of course, our foundation and corporate services. So everything from HR to my foundation team, we all come together. We're a small but hearty bunch, and we're just honored to be able to serve Manitobans the way we do. I say that I hope you never need us, but I'm sure glad we're in this province to provide critical care anywhere.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you so much, Don.
Still ahead for us tonight, there has been another mass shooting in the United States. 5 people were killed, 2 others wounded in what appears to be random attacks in Philadelphia yesterday evening. We'll have the latest coming up after the break. There's been another mass shooting in the United States as the country marks its 4th of July holiday. 5 people were killed and 2 others wounded in a series of apparently random attacks in Philadelphia yesterday evening. A man in his 40s is in custody.
This male was wearing a bulletproof vest with multiple magazines in the vest. He also had a scanner and an AR-style rifle and a handgun.
The shooter fired dozens of rounds over an 8-block area. The 5 dead are men who range in age from 20 to 59 years old. The 2 wounded are aged 2 and 13. Meanwhile, 3 people were killed and 8 wounded in another mass shooting in Fort Worth, Texas. And on Sunday, 2 were killed and 28 wounded in an attack in Baltimore. More violence today in the Middle East as Israel's incursion into the occupied West Bank continues. Israeli forces moved into the Jenin refugee camp in what they are calling an anti-terrorist operation yesterday. Today, there was an assault on civilians in Tel Aviv. A man who police are calling a terrorist began the attack by ramming a pickup truck into a crowd of people at a bus stop.
He got out of his vehicle and began trying to stab the civilians that were around him. Luckily, there was an individual, a civilian, who was armed, and he managed to neutralize this terrorist.
Israeli officials say 8 people were hurt. The attacker has been identified as a 21-year-old Palestinian man. There are reports the pickup truck was stolen. The militant group Hamas did not claim responsibility, but did issue a statement saying the attack was a direct response to the Israeli action in Jenin. That operation, which is reported to have claimed 10 lives, is now winding down. Australian researchers have reported the first diagnosis ever of a female athlete with CTE. That's the degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head injuries. It was found in the brain of Heather Anderson, an Australian who died last year of a suspected suicide. Katie Nicholson has the details.
On the field, Heather Anderson was known for her signature pink helmet.
It just gave Mum a sense of security, knowing I was a little bit protected out there.
But the late Aussie rules footballer has a new legacy. Anderson is now officially the first female athlete to be diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, the degenerative brain disease linked to contact sports like football and hockey, which can lead to dementia and cognitive and mental health issues.
Depression, anxiety, PTSD, and thoughts of suicide.
Dr. Charles Tatter says he expects more cases of CTE to be diagnosed in female athletes, but that determination can only be made after death.
We've got 10 stars who have signed up, 10 Canadian women athletes who have willed their brains to us when the time comes, who are concerned about the issue of CTE.
News of this first in women's sport causing some to worry, like former women's national soccer player Amy Walsh.
I've suffered probably 4 or 5 concussions over the course of my career, and those were the ones that were diagnosed. I'm sure there were other ones.
Walsh sees this as a sign there needs to be more research on women in sport. After all, hundreds of male athletes have already been diagnosed with CTE.
Hopefully it spearheads the need for funding, the need for more research to try to discover and delve a little bit deeper into the mechanisms of why.
Neurologist Matthew Burke says science already shows women appear to be affected more by concussions.
They tend to have worse outcomes in the short term in terms of the persistence of their symptoms.
Still, he stresses not everyone who gets a concussion will develop CTE.
You can't live in a bubble. We just have to be very mindful of the risks that we're learning as science evolves.
And the sports possibly evolve with it. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's a look at some video from the arm of Stewartburn in southeastern Manitoba. Coming up after the break, I'll have your 7-day forecast and your daily lift. Stay with us. All right, let's take a look at the radar. As expected, a few scattered showers starting to move into the Red River Valley and other parts of southern Manitoba. Really nothing to worry about. We should see that clearing out as we get into the evening tonight. Looking at your 7-day forecast now, expect clearing through the day tomorrow. We do have a chance of some showers in the afternoon on Thursday. We're looking at a high of 26 and a low of 10. That is my error there. 25 degrees, a chance of showers on Friday, and then we see really just a widespread chance of showers as we get into the weekend with some cloud cover on Saturday, 24 for your Monday, and a good chance of showers on Tuesday and 22 degrees. A small town in Saskatchewan may have made history last weekend with a prehistoric party, and that is tonight's Daily Lift. And it's a Take a look at this. It's the town of Dundurn. They're looking to beat the Guinness World Record for the most people dressed in inflatable dinosaur costumes. The community is home to 600 people. They thought they'd get 400 people at this event, but the turnout was dynamite with 1,100 participants. That is triple the previous record. Organizers carefully recorded all of the T-Rexes and all the other dinosaurs there and sent that information to the Guinness Book of World Records. They're confident, though, that no one will triceratop this. I'm just wondering how hot it is inside those suits. See you at 11.